industry update time, and let me get my screen up here. I hope you guys got to attend the industry state of the industry we did last week. It was a lot of information, yet we get to continue those conversations on these calls. So that's why I absolutely love doing these calls for that very reason. So, Matt, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah, Brett, I thought it was excellent presentation, and definitely cuts through a lot of the noise of what's going out and gives us real facts. So hopefully you got a chance to attend and have some takeaways that you can actually use in your business.
Absolutely. What was your big nugget? What's the big talking point you brought out of it?
Yep. So I had obviously about 10, but I still always, as we continue to add to the reasons that people continue to move, I love the D's conversation, and then how I believe, and after seeing your facts, new construction is going to be a big part of where we're going over the next 5 to 10 years. And you showed a lot of data that supported that.
Yep. And we'll probably talk a little bit about it today. Well, let's hit the numbers real quick. Fulton County had 727 active inventory, 149 under contract, 306 pending, and 290 closed. So what's the pink line doing? I think it's up, yet all we talk about is low inventory, low inventory, low inventory. So I do actually expect this pink line to climb as the year kind of comes out or closes out. The brown line, the closing line, is still up seasonally, yet it's not as high as we would like to see it midsummer. So, I was watching a game show last night. Not that I watch a lot of game shows, Matt, but I happen to be. And something on the game shows used the word meh, M-E-H. And I was like, meh? I feel like we got a little bit of meh going on, if that's even a word. We'll leave it there. All right. Outside of that, the market's decent. It's just not flying high like a normal summer would, but the closings are there. The properties are there. If you're working, you should be finding your success. If I run over to DeKalb County, and we do the same dance here. We got let me get these off here. You've got 389 active, up a little bit, but not what it was third quarter last year. We had more inventory in DeKalb third quarter last year, but right now it's 389, 84 active under contract, 195 pending, and 176 closed. Interesting numbers. I'm going to show you some actual inventory numbers here in a minute. But here's Cobb County, just so we hit all three. Let me knock these out here. All right. We got 391 active inventory in Cobb, 102 active under contract, which is a little bit up, but not much. 222 pending, which we feel good about. And then 197 closed, which is, you can see in Cobb, if I move my cursor, you can get the foot. But if the brown line's closings, you can see it dip towards the beginning of the year and it come back up in the summer. And we're expecting it to slow down a little bit in third and fourth quarter, which is normal, right? Seasonality, you can see it now. Inventory is up, yet it's not what it was last summer, right? So you feel it. It's a low inventory thing. Let me see if I can find, here we go, housing inventory. So this is kind of shows you the differences in inventory. Matt, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Let me zoom in a little bit. 30 US regions, right? So Atlanta is right here. And right now, June 2023, there's 18,886 unique for sale listings active is basically how they define it. But watch, if I go back to June 2019, Atlanta had 33,500. Then in June 2020, we had 30,000. 21, we had 21,850. 22, we had 20,445. And then you get to this year and we're at 18,886. So what just happened is inventory has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter, which is confusing because you would have thought after the pandemic it would have changed, but it just hasn't changed because interest rates changed that story. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, you active listings. What is unique for sale listings? Can you spell that out for us, Brett?
Unique for sale listings?
We're getting that question in the box. Is that
Yeah, yeah. So just like we track on our numbers here, at any moment in time, how many active inventory is there that doesn't have a contract on it, right? Over here, this source is coming from Zillow, and they're calling it unique for sale listings active at any time in the month of June, meaning if I listed it on June 10th and sold it on June 12th, it still was counted, where mine is only counting how much active is in at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yes.
So this is every property that at some point in time was active in June.
Yeah.
You had a shot at it in the month of June. But wow, what a difference from 33,500 down to 18,800. That's a big gap.
It's a big gap, Brett. And, we had inventory issues in 2019, 2020. It just shows you the significance. Also, the amount of real estate agents who got into the field during those years. You got a real competitive, competition-based market that's really showing up, that's really being pressured, as you can see here.
100%. All right, let's go into education mode for a minute. So the Fed raised interest rate last year. I'm sorry, last week, right? And in there, they raised the rate a quarter point. Well, what does that mean? Now, I'm going to tell you, when the Fed raised the rate, and I'd study economics, but I didn't really pay attention to what it meant. I mean, unless you were in economics, it didn't really affect your life that much. Yet, since the last 12 months, we're now like the all-time high rate for like 22 or 23 years, I think the number is. So all of a sudden we're going, hey, wait a minute. What does this mean? Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't actually directly affect mortgage rates. But here's kind of an explanation. It says interest rates can be considered the price of borrowing money. Quite simply, it's the amount charged to a buyer by a lender for use of an asset, right? Assets borrowed could be a car, home, business, property, or cash. And your interest rate will depend on whether you're borrowing money from a credit card user, taking out a loan, or saving money in a bank. The annual percentage rate is the yearly cost. Most credit cards come with an interest rate that is expressed as an APR. A credit card, you either have a fixed APR or a variable APR for purchases that will be based on your credit score. Well, loans, which are different, whenever you take out a loan, the lender will charge you an interest as a way to manage risk. So houses manage risk, where credit cards is a rate based on you just borrowing the money, right? So the risk is lower on a mortgage rate compared to a credit card, which is why the rate's much cheaper. And banks are more happy to lend on real estate versus credit cards right now because they can secure the loan. Well, the federal fund rate is the target interest rate set by the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Central Bank, the banks use for overnight lending. So the Federal Open Market Committee within the Federal Reserve meets 8 times yearly, or about every 6 weeks, to determine a target range. As of 23 July, the target range is between 5.25 and 5.5. What does that mean? What that means is if I'm a bank and I have 100 million in assets and the government says I have to have liquid cash of 35 million in order to lend out my 100 million, I have to keep that amount of cash in reserve. But if I lend more than that, I go to my fellow bank and say, hey, I need you to cover me. And when you cover me, I pay you an interest rate of whatever the Fed rate is. So the banks are giving money back and forth at this rate to cover how much money they've leased out or lended out in order for them to go make money, right? So then in times of financial crisis, the Fed will lower interest rates. So lowers interest rates means cheaper loans, and cheaper loans should mean more spending to help financial markets recover. So they spur inflation when this happens, and the Fed watches inflation numbers. If inflation gets too high, the Fed may opt to increase rates, which is what's happened. The Fed maintains an annual inflation target of 2%. If you've heard me talk, I'm constantly talking about this 2% number. Many goods, meaning they expect the cost of goods to go up 2% a year. That loaf of bread is supposed to go up 2% a year. That car is supposed to go up 2% a year. What do our houses go up per year?
Average is 4, right? Over a
Yeah,
long period of
that's
time.
correct. They want it to be 2, but our history has said 4. So anyway, all that to say, this is interesting, is financial institutions base rates for consumers on the Fed rate and off their lower risk customers, what's known as the prime rate. This rate is generally 3% percentage points higher than the Fed funds rate and is the best possible interest rate you can get when you borrow money. If your credit isn't ideal, you should expect higher. So if that held true and the prime rate's 5.25, what should mortgage rates be?
According to that, wouldn't it be 8.25?
8.25, but they're not,
Right.
because houses are considered stable. Now, if I was a bank and I was lending money on houses in 2009, 10, they're actually kind of risky because people are upside down, they're defaulting. My money, even though it's backed by real estate, had a risk factor associated with it. Right now, less than 1% is defaulting. Houses are appreciating. Prices are going up. It's actually a really stable asset to lend money on right now. So you're not seeing people nervous about doing mortgage loans. You just have people dealing with affordability and this game inside their head. They'll still, they're not backing off giving loans. It's the consumer going at it slowly.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And then, the rate was raised from 5.25 to, they left the door open for future raises. I don't think it really is going to affect us that much.
Hey, Brett, Brett,
But yeah,
when you talked about it should be 8.25, and obviously it's not right now, but are there other times when the rate is lower that it's 3% higher or 3% in line?
are there other times when it's
You
lower?
said it right now it's 5.25, and it should be 8.25 based on that model.
Yep.
Are there times when the rate is lower than, it's lower when it hits that 3-point spread? Or is that 3
Well,
points?
think about what was the Fed rate 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Almost zero.
It wasn't.
You remember the headline saying they can't lower the rate anymore.
Yeah.
What were interest rates?
2.75,
Yeah.
2.5.
2.5, 3%.
So
it's our industry is a little better at the moment in interest rates than what it was in the past. And I don't think it's an exact science, Jeff, to be honest with you. It's just that this is what this is a pretty reputable article. And I mean, sometimes I've come on here and go, man, maybe I need to educate myself a little more around what this means, or I think it's healthy for us to talk about what this means. because I jump over here to this article, Matt, and it says the Minnesota Federal Reserve president. Why should we care about Minneapolis? Because they're a part of the board that decides whether the rates go up or down, right? He declines to say how many more interest rate hikes remain. But here's what you need to see is he said, well, we're not sure yet on face station. We need to get inflation all the way back down to 2%. That's their number one goal. And so when the inflation gets to 2%, they're going to stop cranking the rates. But right now, the current inflation is at 3%. Even though that's really positive news, that number tends to move around a lot due to fluctuating oil, gas, and food, he said. That the country is making good progress towards bringing down inflation down, but declined to say whether the progress is enough for fewer rate hikes. So we don't know. However, I feel like, and I'd stand by my statement that I think we're close to the bottom.
And based off the other article and the stuff that you're reading, and you're looking at data, Brett, you can be pretty confident making that prediction.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on it. So
there you go. So this hit the newsreel over the weekend. And there's a bank called Heartland Tri-State that was taken over by the FDIC. And I want to give you a perspective around this because I don't think this is the last one. I think another bank will fail and the government will step in. But I want you to think about the fundamental difference between 1929, when the Great Depression hit and the stock market crashed. If we had television news cameras, you would have seen consumers standing in the news going, I just lost everything. I lost all my assets. I lost everything. So now fast forward to 2023, we've seen zero consumers go on the newsreels and go, all my money's gone. Nobody has.
nobody.
Now, we know the banks are closing, but the consumer's not on 5 o'clock news going, all my money's gone. I'm pissed. They screwed me, whatever, insert. So the truth is, unless the consumer's on the 5 o'clock news saying I lost everything, you're not going to have consumer confidence just go in steeply downhill. Because even though these banks are closing, the government's got everybody's back. And you better believe if somebody lost any amount of money, they would have been on the newsreels, and you're hearing nothing. So as bad as it is that the banking system's having some issues, the government's got everybody's back. So you're not having this mad rush of people panicked, right?
Panic.
I'm sure there's somebody that's going, I better go get my money out of the bank. But for the most part, I hadn't seen it unless somebody else has. Make sense? All right. Couple quick things. Matt, new homes will offer a lifeline for some agents. We've been talking about this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the article's great. What I'd say is, coming off of the industry presentation is you showed us where builders are basically doubling down based off of this. And it's the inventory help and aid that we're begging for. And you can kind of see with the opportunity that builders see now that things have, I would say, stabilized in their mind. New home sales have been driving purchase activity in recent months. So it's already here, right? And keeping us afloat. But the double down opportunity that builders see is what's exciting.
Absolutely. They expect mortgage rates to volley between 6 and 7. Wow, you're a genius. And there's a chance rates could breach the 8% mark, depending on what the Federal Reserve decides to increase rates. I don't see 8%. I may be naive, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, I think the big headline here is exactly what you said, Matt, is new homes, right? All right. Last thing that I want to point out is we've had conversations on here before around changing your messaging around first time home buyers, because I think this builder group is just reminding us that first time home buyers are still dependent upon help in getting that first home purchased. So whether or not the pride factor of not having to ask for help versus asking for help is a big deal. I think you're going to find yourself counseling people through this exact thing. Matt, anything there?
And Brett, just a reminder, we put it out there quite a bit. We teach on it a lot, but KW Playbooks has a mortgage hacks playbook that is updated monthly. And one of the things that is a hack is the use of a parent for aid. And that's a real thing. This isn't something new that we've been talking about, but if you're not at least having that conversation with potential buyers, you're ruling out a big part of your buyer pool the next few years.
There you go. All right, Natalie, did I answer your questions?
You did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions, comments? We actually finished up early.
Hey, Brett, that first article on interest rates, if I was, could you put that in the box? If I was an agent, I know as a leader, I'm going to read it. That is a great summary of a lot of the conversations that were happening. And we talk about being the local economist of choice. If you can speak this language at any level, you're going to be better than 99.9% of people. And just having basic understanding. I think you're right. We throw it around a lot. But that is a great summary of what the federal interest rate is and the background on it. Terry, if you go into command, click on the top KW Connect button. And yes, Kelly has it as well. And you search playbooks, there's 18 in there. So go to command.
Oh, in command, sorry.
Yes.
Hey, Terry, Taylor put it in our Google Drive, so it's in there too.
Yep. So if you look at Brett's screen, Brett, if you want to go full screen on that, if you
full
click,
screen.
oh, sorry. If you click connect right in the middle, Brett, at the top, you're on command connect. There you go. Search the box, search playbooks. There you go. Click on that playbooks. Click on playbooks right at the top. Yep. And you've got lots of different ones in there, but you're going to look for the mortgage hacks one right there at the bottom.
Perfect.
So coming out of Mega Camp, Brett, they have 60 playbooks coming out middle of the month off top agent interviews. Brett, what's a playbook?
The playbook's just a shortcut, right? Like we're a company of models and systems, and it's all backed by research, right? Like I talk about Caldwell State does a bunch of research, and that research creates best practices, and then best practices creates a model or playbook that in turn lets us all create a faster path to success.
Yeah, so at Mega Camp, they're having 60 different segments on lead generation studies from the best in the industry by interviewing the people that do the best door knocking, social media, Instagram, whatever it is, events. They put together, going to roll out these playbooks, which from start to beginning give you a model to go after. So,
boom. Matt, we are finishing early. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. All right. Have a good one.
guys, thanks.